Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show. Well, what's up there, folks? Brian Nichols here on The Brian Nichols Show. As always, I am, in fact, your humble host. And today, what a pleasure. It's an old friend coming back with some exciting stuff happening behind the scenes. You probably know her back in the good old days with Austin Peterson's campaign, Liberty Laura, but she's joining us in the program. Laura Lington, welcome to the program.
Hi, Brian. Thank you.
Absolutely, Laura. Thank you so much for joining the program, and thank you for all you've been doing over the years, helping not only fight the good fight in the greater liberty world, but also you've been helping give us tools, and we're going to be talking about one of those tools today, which is a brand new book that you just authored, which it is What Does It Mean to Be Free, available on Amazon and paperback. But before we get there, let's rewind and introduce you to the Brian Nichols Show audience. Now, I teased it at the intro there. Yeah, a lot of people probably knew you better as Liberty Laura back when you were working for the Austin Peterson campaign, the Libertarian Republic, and a lot has happened since you were Liberty Laura to where you are today. So let's kind of fill in the gaps. What's been going on, Laura, in the world of formerly Liberty Laura?
So Liberty Laura was something I started when I worked for Austin Peterson. I interned for him in DC in 2015. I just connected with him through a mutual friend, and I was like, do you do internships at the Libertarian Republic, which is his website that he runs? And so Kansas girl flew out to Washington, DC one summer in 2015, met Austin, and that's when everything started. And I went back to school. I had this Facebook page, Liberty Laura. So I wrote this book, but I had a lot of teachers along the way. And so some of those teachers in between then and now consisted of Austin. I worked on his campaign, 2 of them. And then I also worked for Nick Freitas out in Virginia because I ended up going back to Washington, D.C. and pursuing politics there. And so I worked for Nick Freitas' Senate campaign in Virginia. And then after that, I kind of stopped doing Liberty Laura because I was spokesperson for campaigns. And then I got a job working as Congressman Thomas Massey's communications director in Congress. And that was the dream job for about 2 years. And then I got married and I got pregnant with my first son, and my parents got sick. So we moved back to Kansas when COVID hit last year. Was that last year? Yes.
Yeah.
And then I started my own thing. I launched my own website and wrote my own book.
And that right there, that's where we're going to start off. You wrote your own book. And I always talk about, because so my show, when we started out in 2018, coincidentally, we really approached the show through, it was more of just, you have to take a step back and look at where you've come from to where you are today. The show was your generic libertarian talking to other libertarian about why being a libertarian is the right thing to do. And that there got to a point where I was like, what are we doing? This isn't helping. And we need to start meeting people where they're at on the issues they care about and really bringing solutions to the table. And part of the problem has been the communication aspect of things and being able to actually give people in our world the tools in their tool belt to be able to not only reach other people, but also, and I think this right now, we're seeing the importance of it, is to have a better role at educating their kids. And you wrote a brand new book, and we have it here scrolling at the bottom of the screen, but you can find it over on Amazon. We'll make sure we include this in the show notes too, folks. So if you want to go ahead and find it, it's over on Amazon. It's What Does It Mean to Be Free? And you wrote this, and it's a children's book that it opens the world to the world of liberty. And right now, I think parents are looking for a tool to be able to help kids maybe see the value, because we're let's be real, Laura, since COVID happened, which I know it feels like forever, if we're going to be real here.
Have we always lived this way?
I know. 2019 seems a long time ago. But you're seeing a lot of parents starting to wake up. They're seeing what their kids are being taught in school, and they're saying, can I at least start to at least counter what they're being taught? This is something I think is going to be a great resource. So what inspired the onset in your world of focusing on writing this book?
Well, I never thought that I would be a children's book author. That was never something that was in the plan, but that's usually how some of the best things start. I had a book for my son, and it's a New York Times bestseller, and it's called What Do You Do with an Idea? And yeah, that's another really great book. And it's beautiful and it's emotional and it's difficult to explain these big conceptual ideas to our kids, especially young kids. I mean, like toddlers, pre-K, kindergarten age. What do you do with an idea? Well, I don't know. We can sit here all day and talk about it, but the end of the book ends really sweet, and it basically the last page is you change the world. That's what you do with an idea. You change the world. And so my son, he's 2. He got all of his dad's brains. And he knows now. And I ask him, I say, "Hey, Dawson, what do you do with an idea?" And he says, "Change the world." And it's the cutest thing. And it was super inspiring. And you're right. I saw politically, culturally what was happening all around us. And he's still young, but I feel like it's my responsibility as his parent to get ahead of things. And I left that book, that previous book, with this feeling like inspiration because I don't want to introduce him to the world and the ideas of like liberty and what's important to us is faith too. I don't want to introduce him to those ideas as like some dark, doomy alternative to what is accepted in society. I want to inspire him with them. Like I want them to be beautiful ideas. I have a copy of the book. And so the book is really colorful. I tried to mimic kind of what happens in that other book that I was talking about, uses light, nature items, and things like that. And the boy walks through the portal, and he's basically just shown, like, hey, the world is your frontier, and you can make of it what you want to. There's only one rule to freedom, and that is that you don't hurt yourself and don't hurt other people, and then just inspire other people to live freely through your own life. And I think tools like that are positive and not they don't have to be they don't have to be these like really tough conversations that we have after the fact. You can preempt what these kids are told and have them be confident in what they believe ahead of time.
Yep. Oh man, right there, you just hit the nail on the head because this has been a reoccurring theme. My audience is like, "Ha, she said it," because we talk about setting the narrative instead of responding to the
Yeah.
narrative, and how important it is not only to when you were not responding to the narrative, but when you actually set that narrative, do so in confidence and feeling that you are able to set that narrative in a way that it's not even like you're worried about being challenged because it's not something you're concerned about. Like you see this a lot, and this is something I think you brought up as well. The idea of faith, right? Christians don't go around trying to justify to other people that God is real because
Mhm.
that's not the argument. That's not what it means to be a Christian. That's what faith is. And that is something I think we are starting to see when we are instead of responding to narratives now, it's just confidently setting the narratives because we know, like, stop arguing whether or not libertarian ideas are right versus the leftist, the socialist, the Republican, the conservative. It doesn't matter. Like, stop. Just start talking about the principles and the morals that we know will not only make things better, but also that will win people's hearts and minds over. And I think right there, you have this great line again with an idea. You can change the world. You see this right now. People have lost the sense of hope. They've lost the sense of optimism that there is
Mhm.
something beyond what is the current status quo, and this is the new normal, right? We all dreaded that word or that phrase rather back a year ago, but fast forward to where we are today, it kind of feels like that. And that's why I think you're starting to see a mass exodus across the board of people almost self-segregating, going into different areas that are less authoritarian or less mandate, less lockdown versus more pro individual liberty. And it's happening just across the board. And thankfully we have people in Congress like your former boss there, Thomas Massey, who are fighting the
There's
good
not
fight.
that many of them. There's only a few, and Justin
No,
Amash is gone now, so
I know. Well,
the
at least
coalition is
we thank God we have someone though, right?
yes.
And that is, I think we're seeing now the importance of that. So let's go
Mhm.
back to the educational aspect, and you're talking to parents with this book. Also, I think that's also a thing that's important too
Mhm.
because parents, I think, will find sometimes it's difficult to have these conversations with kids. I just did my morning sales huddle. I send out an email every day to my subscribers here, and we just talked about kids and how you have to in sales approach a sales solution like a kid, asking questions and being internally curious. But as a parent, now I don't have kids yet myself, but I'm sure you can testify this. Kids can ask a lot of questions or at least have that curiosity
Mm.
themselves, whether they're verbalizing it or not, looking up what's going on, why are things happening, and you see that things are starting to put together. And I think now, if you're a parent, this is just another resource to help answer a lot of those curious questions, especially when you're trying to do it through the confines of liberty. That world that it's sometimes difficult to stand up and present as an alternative solution when we're all the crazy ones, Laura. I know that's the world we're in today, but yeah, we are the crazy ones.
Well, sometimes yes, we are crazy. I just embrace that. It's fine. It's okay. Um, the back to the kids asking questions. Yes. You think you can do all of these preparations and you think you are ready to be a parent, but you will never, ever, ever be ready for any stage that hits. Um, so, like, you can try, and there are materials that you can use to try and prepare for the next stage, and you should do that. But, like, for example, um, my son, we're really working on brushing his teeth. Why do we brush our teeth? He asks. I mean, I know why we brush our teeth, but I've never actually consciously thought that. And one of the most beautiful parts about being a parent is that um, you have this fresh, innocent life who has never walked through the world before. And there are beautiful things. You can watch them watch the sunset for the first time. You can be part of their first experience eating ice cream or a cinnamon roll. But also, they're going to say, hey, why do we brush our teeth? Hey, why do we go to school? Hey, why is there a president? And these things are going to catch you off guard. And if you are not ready, we usually don't have the best answers when they are given out of like desperation or surprise. And so, yeah, I wrote my book to be to provide that service to say like, hey, this question's going to come up, and if you are ascribed to a certain set of beliefs, you'll want it to come up before it does because of some outside force. Here's some material for $8.99. I will make your life a lot easier. um, and this is here, because I have felt that same relief through other children's books. We read a lot of R.C. Sproul's children's books, and those are beautiful, and they have like similar foundational messages. And it's really nice to be able to just like reach to one of those. And I know that he has these things at hand, and eventually he can read them by himself. And it makes me a lot more confident, even though I know we will never be 100% prepared.
Are you ever going to be 100% prepared? I think we see
No.
this also across the board. People, whether it's being a parent, whether it's trying to get somebody in the business world to go from one solution to the next. You have
Mhm.
this we call it paralysis by analysis, where people will always look to try and get things buttoned up to be perfect, and the reality is it's never going to be perfect. But what you can do is do your best and control the most important things that are within the purview of the overall goal, what you're trying to accomplish. So, and let's talk about segue. We see right now that there is a goal out there that people are trying to accomplish, and that is to find an objective news source. I see it all the time on social media. This is partly why I have my show. I'm tired of people arguing. But
Mhm.
what happens is people are looking for an alternative media source that will, instead of just regurgitating the partisan talking points and getting people angry at each other, which I get it. As a sales guy, we know the number one emotion that sells is fear. And I mean, fear. I'm sorry. I don't mean to step on our friend Stephen Kent's parade right now as he's going around touring his brand new book, How the Force Can Fix the World. The fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Yes, Star Wars right there. I had to do that for Stephen. But you do see right now that the media has almost been built to incentivize anger and
Mhm.
polarize people on one side versus the other. And you have really given us a new tool. Again, thank you, Laura, for this. Bill Brief, which is it's taking news stories, eliminating the bias, and trying to present the news as what it should be, just the news, the information as it happens. So talk about this new venture again, Laura. Since 2018, you've been busy. Where did this entire venture come from?
Well, let's see. So I was working as communications director in Congressman Thomas Massey's office. I was basically already doing what I do for Bill Brief for him as his communications director. I was aggregating the news for him. That was just one part of my job. And when he would prepare for interviews, I would prep materials for him. And when you do an interview, even if it's on a friendly platform, if you're a Republican going on Fox News, you need to be familiar with what they're saying on CNN and MSNBC, because if your interviewer is worth half their paycheck, they're going to ask you questions that relate to that other side's perspective. And also, I'm thinking of this video that I know Joe Rogan posted recently, and it's a clip that shows all of the major news networks sponsoring segments by Pfizer. And if you haven't seen that video, go look it up. It's within the last like 2 months. Good. And it's just revealed. So you've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's basically just exposing that all of these news networks are bought and paid for by the big pharma companies that they're reporting on, that they're covering. And that's just like one small taste of the entire menu of news sources that we have. And you've seen, so to counter that, and people are aware of this, people know this, the constituency, some part of it is paying attention.
Yeah.
And so you have this growth of like Patreon platforms and Substack platforms where supporting independent journalists and the like. But that's hard. I mean, you can subscribe to 10 different Substacks and then you're spending over $100 a month just for different perspectives. And for me, yeah, I'm a mom. I don't have time to do that. I also don't have time to just plop in front of Fox News, and I don't want to plop in front of Fox News because it is, like you said, angry. And so what I do is I just try to put all of these things together and use my past experiences from Massey's office. And I go through and I just use like a big net and I cast it over all of the cable news networks and the online publications. Anywhere from Fox News to like The Intercept, Daily Beast. I try to catch all of the major stories that cover political news coming out of Washington, D.C., and I aggregate it and I curate it to a certain extent to, like you said, strip out as much bias as I can. We're all biased in some way. And then I send out a newsletter twice a week, and it's this formatted aggregation of the news, and you don't have to click out of the newsletter if you don't want to. You can just read it while you brush your teeth, top to bottom, and you can check that off your list of things to do.
It's so much easier than going through social media, and you get the you get the commentary version of the article, of course, right?
Yeah.
Because what is not Twitter if not for us just telling everyone our opinions all the time? But you do see that, right? You see that not only is how people establish their identity, but it also will get their tribe going, right? Then the replies, the retweets, and you just it's gross.
I mean, I feel it too. Like when I go onto Twitter, I can feel the foam, like, you know, coming up in my mouth. Like it triggers a chemical in your brain that's not healthy.
No, it really does. It does. You're right.
And then the what is that on your, if you have like an Apple, you have an iPhone and it tracks your length of activity on certain apps?
Yep.
Oh, Twitter time, Instagram time will go way up if I even open it. And
yeah,
so one of my show an ounce of control.
One of my SDRs I have for my my sales team. He's so funny. His phone dinged. He goes, "Ooh, dopamine hit." I laughed.
Yes.
I all but laughed, and I was like, "But actually, and that's
true."
Especially Gen Z too, and that's something I think we're gonna be dealing with, you know, as we grow older, like especially your kid, like God, my kids one day, you know, what's the status quo technology that they're gonna have? I want, you know, the smartphone, that's the status quo technology for Gen Z. And you know, you see kids just look at the screen and they just instinctually know, oh, swipe, 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 and you just like, well, that's now the baseline for them. What's the baseline 10 years, 50 years, 100 years? And what will we be able to do with that for good or for bad? And going back to Bill Brief, like you've been able to use the technology at our disposal for good. And I think we're going to see, I'm actually going to be doing an episode in this with our good friend Chris Goizetta. He's our marketing guru, and he's been swamped with his professor stuff. And I've been swamped with my moving stuff. So we haven't got the chance to talk about this yet, but Web 3.0 though, the idea of moving away from the Web 2.0, which was you have very technical technical websites where you're able to have interactive mediums. You can have content forums, you can have chats, you can have video, you can have pictures, but then also you have big companies who are controlling these massive servers and then connecting these servers with all the different infrastructure needed for that. Web 3.0 though, going towards more of the peer-to-peer, the blockchain, using more of that as the baseline, getting rid of the I heard somebody you refer to this, and I didn't even think about this way, but like you want to talk to somebody on the left, like you want to enter into why crypto is so important. I forget the name of the organization, but they were trying to buy a copy of the U.S. Constitution. It was just just going up for sale at auction, and they were able to raise as a crypto entity. I forget the name of what they call it. But they raised $40 million in less than 3 days, and they came in short. A super billionaire, probably like a Bezos or a Musk or somebody, bought this Constitution for like $67 million. But the part that was important was that $40 million that they were able to raise that quickly could literally come from a 7-year-old to a 70-year-old to anybody in between. There was no bank that wasn't as an intermediary. There was no third party. You just did it. And I think we're going to see more and more people seeing the value in that. And it opens the door for more entities like what you've done with Bill Brief to exist. And I just think what we started to do with TLR, with Austin, what you're doing now with Bill Brief, what I'm trying to do here at the show, we're all kind of finding the specific niche where we're having success. And as we have more technology at our disposal, Laura, I'm excited. I think, I hear people who are upset and weary of the future. To the contrary, I think we actually have a lot of things to look forward to.
I agree. Sometimes this is like a common thought prompt that I fall back on often. It's like, imagine this scenario in like the 1700s or the 1600s. I don't know why I do this. And I'm so thankful for like really mundane things a lot of the time, like air conditioning, dishwashers. You're talking about crowdfunding, and like I funded my book through Indiegogo. Now I had to use the platform Indiegogo, but I think about if I was an author in the 1600s, I would never have been able to do anything like that. I could have gone to church and taken collection. I could have gone to like the public square and taken collection. But the crowds that I reached, I mean, I had people all over the country, all over the world, actually, donating to fund this idea. And that emergent order is beautiful. And I think you're right. The further away we get from hosting platforms with movements like that, it's I love it. It's beautiful is the only word that I can think of. I also see this happening like on Facebook groups, albeit it's on Facebook, so there are limitations. But you see community groups replacing a lot of, or not replacing, but just providing a resource for local communities. I know a lot of moms are in local Facebook groups and they say, hey, do you have this kid thing, this baby thing? Can someone help me babysit? Can someone come over and just give me a meal? Or you have community groups giving things away for free. I forget what they're called, but this is a phenomenon now too, where neighbors are just saying like, I want to give this away to somebody who needs it for free. And you see things, the internet letting things like that happen. Of course, there are negative side effects to technology and innovation, but there are beautiful aspects too.
Yeah, there is, again, back to the point. I think there is so much to look forward to, but Laura, it starts with us having an idea, and then only then can you change the world. Before we wrap up though, Laura, let's do this. We want to give you obviously the last chance here to give the audience the best pitch you can of why they not only should check out Bill Brief, but also check out what does it mean to be free. By the way, folks, we will include the links in the show notes, make it easy as possible for you to go ahead and find that. But also, Laura, For the audio listener, where can folks go ahead and find you so they can continue the conversation, or they want to learn more?
Okay, so what does it mean to be free? My children's book comes in hardcover and paperback. Both are available on Amazon. They are both available on Prime for now. So if you are looking to get this for a Christmas gift, I would do it now because supply chains are causing a bunch of interruptions with my books. So Amazon has them available at the moment, but I can't promise in 2 weeks that they will be there. So what does it mean to be free on Amazon? Available hardcover and paperback. And then Bill Brief, my news aggregation service. You can sign up for that 14-day free trial, billbrief.com. I'm also with all of the Gen Zers on TikTok, where I promote a lot of my news research. And I'm just at Laura from Kansas on TikTok.
Laura, thank God you're on TikTok, because Chris Goizetta tried to get me to do the TikTok. I really did. I was like, Chris, I'm gonna give it a shot.
I'm technically a Zennial. I was born in 1994, so I feel like I can get away with it, but I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I'll leave you to that. You can have fun talking to the Gen Zers and fighting the good fight over on TikTok. But with that being said, we'll make sure, again, like I said, we'll include all the social media links, including the TikTok, of course, in the show notes. And also, folks, you want to go ahead and check out the entire transcription of today's episode. We'll make it easy. Again, head to BrianNicholsShow.com, or just click the Brian Nichols Show artwork in your podcast catcher. It'll bring you right to today's episode. You can find the transcription. Oh, and by the way, all 400 plus episodes of the Brian Nichols Show. But with that being said, yes, what does it mean to be free? Laura Lington, thanks for joining the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at BrianNicholsShow.com.